Today on Indie Gamer TV, jump between different signs from the bathroom to the crosswalk while solving complex puzzles in The Pedestrian. Then, we'll set sail across the ocean, commanding our crew and upgrading our ship in Sail in Sacrifice. At the end of the show, we'll dive into a deep RPG and venture into a world of the likes we've never experienced before in Bleak Faith Forsaken. Right after I speak with the developer himself. All of this is coming up right now.
And here's your host, Jeff Porter.
Hey guys, welcome to Indie Gamer TV, the show where we help shine a spotlight on some of the finest independent game developers from all around the world. I'm your host, Jeff Porter. Before we get into the new show this week, I want to give a shout out to some new subscribers. It's something I want to do if you're public as profile and it shows up. I'd like to give you a shout out. So here you go. Mick Fleck, thank you for subscribing. Daniel Ho, thank you very much. And Andy Betteridge, thank you guys for subscribing. If you want to subscribe and get your name shouted out next week, be sure to go down below and do that right now. Have you ever wondered what the little guy from the crosswalk sign does on his day off? No? Well, apparently the developers of The Pedestrian did, and thought it'd make an interesting game idea and, you know, have them solve some puzzles and through mazes and stuff. I don't know, but it actually looks really cool, and I played it for a bit. So here's The Pedestrian. The Pedestrian is a 2.5D puzzle platformer that has a unique take on their gameplay. It's a build-your-own solution game with a unique art style centered around public signs, like male and female bathroom symbols, elevator symbols, and more. Play as a stickman who has to navigate through the world using only signs. These aren't just your normal signs, however. Each one comes with a challenging array of puzzles, where you not only have to navigate through one sign, but through multiple, using their system to move and connect doors and ladders from one sign to another. As you travel around, you'll experience a living and breathing city in the background, while you attempt to traverse obstacles, traps, ride up elevators, and activate different levers to power lifts and other mechanics. Find keys to unlock doors, and more. I played through the demo, and it is a unique challenge that demonstrates what is to come with the full release. But this is one you want to add to your Steam wishlist. If you're a puzzle solver and would like a new and exciting game, The Pedestrian is exactly what you need. The Pedestrian takes a unique take on puzzle games and is nearing completion. According to Skookum Art's website, they have 95% complete and are getting close to full release. You can download a free demo from their website right now. The link is in the description below. Let's head out of the city now for a while though, and set sail on the high seas. And sail and sacrifice.
It's time we set sail.
Well, where do I begin with Sale and Sacrifice? There's bad, there's good, and there's a little bit more bad. But why don't we start with the good first? Developers work really hard on their games, and I want to show what they got right, just to lighten the mood. Look, Sale and Sacrifice is definitely onto something here. It's got the right idea. Pirates, ships, guns, swordplay, an RPG system, quests. It's all right here. It's just not implemented quite in the right way yet. Alright, here's a rundown of some things that I like about Sale and Sacrifice. Look, it's an open world RPG. +1. You can explore 25 different islands. +1. You can expand your crew by asking drunk pirates in a bar, and then decide how much you want to pay them. +1. You can buy different ships and upgrade them. +1. And there's a decent quest system that doesn't spoon feed you the narrative and has riddles that you have to solve on your own. +1. I think I know what a lot of you may be thinking, and I'm not going to dock Sale and Sacrifice for the graphics. They may seem a bit dated, but graphics don't make a great game. I still play Final Fantasy VII every few years, and the graphics don't dampen or ruin the experience for me. The issues are things like the clunky combat system that could be fun. It's just way too slow. It's buggy, and slow-mo after every kill is cool at first, but after 5 kills, it gets a little old. -1. Being able to pick your crew and have them follow you into battle is supposed to make fights easier and give you a sense of a larger scale battle. Problem is, half the time your crew are usually stuck in the water, or just watching you get sword whipped. They're just standing there. -1. The glitches and bugs are also in need of a serious run through, as just walking or swimming could be the means to your death. -1. I'm not quite sure what they were going for with the dialogue, but it has this weird baby talk Sims thing going on. I don't know if it's a placeholder or intentional. Either way, it's a -1 for me. And whatever this thing is with the gun, -1. So you can see where we stand with the score right now. It's an even 0. Yes, Sale and Sacrifice doesn't really go in any direction for me. There's a lot wrong with it, sure, but there's also a lot they have going for it. The expansive world, the ability to go out and battle in the sea by ship, and the progression system with perks definitely shows promise. So I will say, I'm sure they can turn it around, fix up some of those bugs, and make the whole combat, well, the whole game less clunky. Then it will definitely be a game worth grabbing. However, at its current $19.99, it may be kind of a steep reach for the content. I'll leave it up to you though. Oh, I did like the interesting air sailing mechanic though, with the dude and the +1! +1! There, still, even though with a +1 overall, I'd still tread lightly in these waters and maybe grab it when it goes on sale. Well, I was super excited for Sale and Sacrifice. The features looked too good to pass up, and it just fell short of what I wanted. But hopefully with the continued updates by the development team, it'll be good to go shortly. Let's turn our sails away from the pirates though, and head towards our final game of the show. A game that will have you saying, wait, that's an indie title? That is? Looks better than most AAA games. Not only is it independently developed, but is also by just a team of one programmer and a man without a bed. Here's Bleak Faith, Forsaken.
I have wrestled with death. It is the most unexciting contest you can imagine. It takes place in an ethereal grayness, with nothing underfoot, nothing around, without spectators, without clamor, without glory, without the great desire for victory, without the great fear of defeat. In a sickly, colorless atmosphere of skepticism, you find yourself without much belief in your own right, and still less in that of your adversary. Yet I have found that when one is reduced to nothing, the opportunity for meaning arises. When one is broken, reforging one's will is inevitable. And when one has run out of hope, faith becomes strength.
I'm not exactly sure where to begin with Bleak Faith Forsaken, but maybe I should explain what I mean by a developer without a bed. It's probably a good place to start. So here we go. I'm going to try to pronounce it. Misu Vushkevich, creator of Bleak Faith, has gone all in on this project. Not only has he turned this into a full-time project after quitting his job, but he's also turned his room into his own motion capture studio, propping his bed up against the wall to get the space he needs to record. This is the definition of that independent spirit. This is how he's been able to produce such great cinematic scenes in animation. But we'll hear more from him when he calls in on Skype. According to their Kickstarter, Bleak Faith Forsaken is a third-person, open-world, survival horror action RPG. That is a whole bunch of genres. Set in a universe you've never experienced before. Play as one of the Forsaken, the last frontier of humanity against the growing horrors of the Omnistructure. As you find yourself stranded in a faraway outpost, you must adapt in order to survive. The world won't wait for you, though. You must venture into the unknown. Your faith will decide your fate. Well, that sounds pretty bleak. Anyways, Bleak Faith is an intuitive combination of dark fantasy and cyberpunk, offering gamers a fresh experience unlike one they've ever journeyed through before. The world is full of lore, and as a baseline, there's an estimated 30 hours of gameplay, a deep class system, and a procedural AI system that ensures that no playthrough is ever the same. Not only is the narrative, background, and setting meticulously crafted, the combat will also serve as a deep part of the game and feel grounded and weighted. Play as one of several different classes and find the style that best suits you. You will be challenged in every battle, and every fight you win will feel rewarding. Pick your encounters wisely though. It may not always be time for combat. Craft, scavenge, hunt, upgrade stats, augment your character, create equipment, and try to stay healthy. Resist the puppet plague and the many other afflictions present in the world, which can change the entire outcome of your journey. Bleak Faith Forsaken is running a very detailed Kickstarter campaign right now. And if this sounds like something you're interested, there's a link to the Kickstarter below. I highly recommend heading over there and pledging whatever you can. They're not asking for much, and the finished journey will be worth far greater in the end. Pledge as little as $5 or a minimum of $30 to get a digital copy of the game upon release. Early access is planned to release as early as October or December this year, with a full release coming to PC next year. There are plans for a console release as well, and they're working as hard as they can to make that happen. Bleak Faith Forsaken is an incredibly ambitious title, and with an even deeper narrative and lore than I could possibly explain. The developers are working tirelessly day in and day out to create something exceptional and unique for gamers, to help recapture that feeling we may have lost from numerous AAA remakes and copies. I'm very excited to have the developer himself, Misha Vučković, on Skype right now. I hope I'm doing that right, man. I know you told me. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm super glad to have you.
Cool. I'm excited.
All right, man. So you keep talking about the Omni structure. What is the Omni structure? Is it the world we're in, or how do you describe it?
So a big part of the Omni structure itself is, so I'll use the name, right? But I wouldn't really delve into too many details as to exactly what it is. But yes, it is what people would use to refer to the world. Like, it is the equivalent of our word for the world. Like how you would say, like, I don't know, I'm the best basketball player in the world, right? And it's like, there's a different term in a post-humanist world where the world isn't just like centered around that. Like, the idea is a little bigger than that. And so it's just basically this, like, from the local standpoint, from what you know, so that I don't spoil anything, from what you know, it's literally just your surroundings, and they're not a planet. I'll say that. Your surroundings are not a planet. Like solar systems and things are not really what people talk about when they refer to the universe and the world. So it's more so everything. Like every word that you would describe all of our surroundings, like the universe, the world, the stars, and this and that, just replace all that with Omni structure. Like that's what it is. In terms of that.
So you mentioned being able to choose our own class. What's the progression system like, and are there different perks or skill trees that players will be able to choose from?
So we're still in a place where we're kind of deciding exactly. So we have classes, right? We already have all this in mind. The part that we're still designing is finding a balance between making it very, very rigid at some point, but still pretty open to, for example, like the big question right now in the development that's happening is, do we make it so that we have classes that can all use any kind of weapon that they want to? Maybe, say, for a few specializations where, for example, you'd use a Technomancer, and the Technomancer, for some reason, have, like, I don't know, like gauntlets or whatever that don't allow them to wear heavy gear, for example. Like maybe something like that. But otherwise, the question is, like, can we make a ranged tank? Can we make like an assassin that's essentially built like a tank, or like this? And that's kind of what we're trying to tap into, without making it so seamless and freeform that at the click of a button you change your class, right? So it's like, it's finding a balance, but ideally we would get to a point where you can really kind of mold your play style literally to be like, I want to be a ranged support character. Like, I want to be a ranged tanky character. Like, I want to use bows and arrows, but I want to be like at the front, like doing that. And so we're really just trying to facilitate as many different approaches, so that if you hear the word tank, your immediate thought isn't, oh, I have a shield and sword and I'm in the front and this and that. Like, maybe that can come about in a different way. And so I think it's really finding this kind of niche that it's hard to really look at any other game and look for something that you don't really find in them. And it really is just about flexing our own design abilities and just kind of finding what specifically fits for what we're trying to make, and not really how the industry solves these problems. So, the summation of what I'm saying is that it would be pretty freeform in the decision that you want to make and the kind of class that you want to play, but you'll still feel like you committed to something, like you're building something up, because we want that commitment of, you're building a character and you're building his stats, and you don't just suddenly decide to be like a magic casting, like whatever, after I've just spent, this entire game building up my like two-handed abilities or whatever, So it's like, we're just trying to find this like balance between commitment and still having your freedom to decide what you're going to look like at the end of the game. So yeah.
I know you guys are really pushing for a console release. Can you just tell me about like what that means to you and why you're trying so hard for it?
Yeah, so you hear it from the person himself in spoken form. Our goal, I mean, coming off of a release with PC, okay, it would go back to then like what the goal of Bleak Faith is, and to me is like it's about sharing the story, right? And so I'd really want to share it as much as I possibly could, have it touch upon as many people, and I feel it's not a game that would feel out of place on a console. It makes a lot of sense. A lot of people would prefer to play this game with a controller, and so we'd already included controller support for everything. So we're really like taking those steps, like even if it doesn't end up on a console, that you can play it with a controller, because if the idea is to play this game in the best way possible and for you to feel these emotions, these things, I don't want you to be limited by designer technical constraints, right? And so the goal is really to give you as many different ways to appreciate this, and in whichever way you're most comfortable. And I'm not a console player myself, but I do know how much consoles mean to people. And so to me, it was just a no-brainer that once we were done with the game, we would push and do everything we possibly could. Like once it's released for PC, everything that is within our power to get it, for Xbox, to get it for PlayStation. Now, obviously, these aren't just choices that we can make for them. It's a little more finicky to get into those industries. So it really isn't, the ball's not only in our court. If it was, I'd be able to guarantee it. But like this, the thing that we can guarantee is that we'll be pushing like without stop until they end up on the shelves. And it's like, it's not something that I want to pass up on. And I think that it'll benefit the game because there is a large audience that likes to hear these stories that exist on console. And I would feel like we would betray the gamer society if we just kind of reached out to one group and not all of them, even though it's just like my personal interests have always been for PC games. I don't think that it's fair to build a game and say it's for gamers and then not build it on console, or at least not give your best shot. Like who knows? Like maybe it doesn't succeed, and I'm not gonna lie and say, oh, it's definitely happening and everything. Like maybe in some scenario it doesn't, but then like the sequel is coming out. You know what I mean? Like it's something. This story will continue on console. Period. So, but we'll see. Like I said, it's still kind of early to talk about that, and we don't have the resources currently to do it. But coming off this Kickstarter, I would hope. Or at least sales from the game would be able to cover kind of those expenses and everything, because it's definitely not cheap trying to release on a console. Yeah, so that's the spiel.
And then, of course, the question of the show, everybody's wondering, we got to know, how were you able to achieve such incredible graphics, and what's that been like during production?
Yeah. I think, every day I feel like I've shot myself in the foot for going for realistic graphics, because everyone who's working in this, people know that stylized graphics are tough to pull off properly, but they can be a crutch, right? Especially when you're a smaller studio. Not having the texture things or just using flat colors is definitely less time consuming, not just in terms of creating the art, but like optimizing things. So I think that I put, for every model and every single thing I create, at least an extra 2 to 3 hours of work, simply making it runnable and optimized to a level where people can actually run this thing and play the game. Frames per second are a really important thing to me. So keeping this thing 60 frames and above is like prime when I'm developing. So it's important that it not just looks good, but it's executed in a way that doesn't actually impact your computer a lot, right? And so I do think at this point I might have been the wrong decision, only because it's going to require like all of me entirely, and I might not even survive this game development process. But I'm happy to go through it, right? Like I'm really enjoying every single day, and that's why I dove into it this deeply, because to me, if I'm going to go through this, then it also made sense that the animations have to have weight. Like the animations really need to be grounded in reality and bring the same weight that the art brings to the table, for you to feel like the characters really exist in this world, right? And to me, the only way that made sense at some point was motion capture. Even though prior to that, maybe a month before I actually started buying the pieces and everything, I was literally just dreaming about motion capture. I would watch it online and just be like, oh my God. Like I like watching Hellblade's Senua's Sacrifice and seeing that small team work with all that technology. I was just like, if I could only get my hands on this studio and like these people, like, and just kind of, you know, just tell my own story, I'd be so happy. And then, you know, somewhere it just happened, it just clicked, and I'm like, why wait? Like, why not actually just, I have some savings and I'm putting myself at even more risk because I have a lot less savings now, right? And like without a job, that's like a really tough thing to really give away, because it's like, it's my way to live, basically, like rent and this and that. And so it's like, but it just made sense that I would bring that and just, you know, and my first project using the motion capture, I actually started using it in the template, was the trailer itself, was the thing that was on the Kickstarter campaign, the promo video. I also used some photo scanning in there as well. I don't know if you realize, but the person that unmasked themselves is my face, actually. You can go back and see that if you want to. It'll make more sense now. But I think just generally being immersed in that process that much, to me, some no-brainer answers were quality, like quality to the extent that no one would expect from one person, because I think that's what it deserves. I think that that's what speaks to this game, and that's what this game is on a meta level. It really is a project that is inspirational and deep and really thought out and very like considered. And so it made sense that the process itself to get there really needs to evoke that every step of the way. And it means like all these challenges, which, you know, they're not I wouldn't say they're the smartest business ideas, you know, to go that deep and to go that far. And by no means am I saying that the graphics they're not even the best of what I can make, but they're the best that I can see myself finishing and bringing all the content on time and on the schedule. So it's like, I can make better graphics, but then we're talking about like shaving off content because it's like impossible to create that much content that quickly. So I'm really elated that people are really happy about the way it looks. I think it looks good, but I'm biased, right? Because I'm making it. But it's really been nice to hear that people feel like it's high quality. Like they don't feel like we're cheating them or something. Like when we're talking about art, they don't feel like we're not creating art here. They don't feel like that's kind of weird, you know, like it really comes across like we've thought of everything. And so it's going to keep getting better. That's something that I can say. And I'm grateful that you think it's already looking good. But yeah, it'll keep getting better.
All right. Thank you so much, Misu. Thank you for being on the show. Best of luck with your Kickstarter. And I'm really excited. I can't wait to see the finished journey that is going to be Bleak Faith Forsaken. All right, as always, I hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode of Indie Gamer TV. Please check out the games in the links below and let me know what you think about them in the comments. Check back next week for another episode full of indie games, developer interviews, and as always, thank you guys for watching.